Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in to another PvP 3v3 Arena guide. My name is Supatease, and today I'll be bringing you a Disciplined Priest guide, a little bit more ferocious, as we will be playing Jungle Cleaver, the Feral Druid, and the Survival Hunter, and we'll be running into the oh-so-dreaded Balanced Druid, Shadow Priest, Restoration Shaman. This composition that we are facing is incredibly durable, likely one of the most difficult compositions to actually get a kill on, as they have so many defensive cooldowns, passive durability, self-healing, and utility, effectively being a triple hybrid team on top of that. So here I'm going to be going through how I manage my mana for a long game, how I look to execute crowd control push windows for burst, and then when to retreat away when those burst windows have faded. So you want to start the game off by having Atonement on your partners. This way you can use Dark Archangel in the opener. And you want to make sure that you have a strong opener on the Shadow Priest before he builds Insanity. Right now he's only got 4 Insanity. So you want a Dark Archangel Shadow Fiend immediately, commit a lot of cooldowns early on. If you catch the Shadow Priest off guard, there is a significant chance that you will just end the game right at the start, or at least force significant cooldowns. In this specific engage, we have only gotten Dispersion, but we have stalled out his Insanity generation for quite long, and he continues to dip low because of that. Now we net an Earthen Wall totem. So with Dispersion and Earthen Wall, knocking the Shadow Priest out of line of sight of the Shaman and out of the defense is definitely a strategy you want to employ. If you have any knockback effects, that is extremely valuable against a Restoration Shaman to deny that defense. We just further create that opening window of pressure. Now our window is lost. They're using Incarnation. They've boosted their damage quite heavily. This is where you want to start thinking about using powerful defensive cooldowns, such as the Barrier. So with an Honor, Talent, Dome of Light, this Barrier increases in strength. You want to basically all huddle down, just bunker down for the Incarnation, tank it out as long as you can with this Barrier, and then either look to run away or crowd control the Moonkin, as it's going to be increasingly difficult. So I chained the Barrier into Pain Suppression onto the lowest target, which at this time was the Feral Druid, and even with that, he still barely survives. Throughout all of that, you'll see I was playing Twist of Fate, this purple icon at the top. That boosts my healing whenever I heal someone or deal damage to someone at low health, and I use my instant cast Radiances only when that Twist of Fate is activated, so it gets a huge heal, basically a lay on hands effect to anyone that gets hit by it, and it's a really great way to recover from that type of area of effect damage. And you generally don't want to use Radiance outside of that specific window because it's too mana intensive. I like it as an emergency recovery, especially if you're new to Disciplined Priest. I would suggest that. There's a lot of veteran Disciplined Priests that do not play it and run a Smite build, but for me, since I'm still picking up Disciplined Priest, I'm playing it as a bit of a crutch, but you can still win with the build. Now, as I am in crowd control, I am notifying my partners that they should focus on potentially surviving or running away, so they immediately start retreating back. There's the Radiance timed with Twist of Fate again into a Penance, which allows my Feral Druid to start stabilizing. In this position, Shadow Mend is a very expensive spell, and you would like to avoid using it. In that situation, I did not necessarily need to. I was using it in an attempt to top my partner off to try and get them aggressive as soon as possible, but in that situation, it would have been better to use Solace on an enemy target and Penance to save mana. Penance is your most important spell against these Balanced Druids or Shadow Priests. You want to be maximizing Penance, maximizing Smite, as those are your lowest mana cost and most efficient heals against this type of damage, and you want to avoid Shadow Mend at all costs. Now my team set up crowd control with a stun trap, so I move in position to try and get a Psychic Scream, but since that crowd control chain had already ended, I'm basically spending a lot of time chasing a target, although he is also not healing the target and having to move. And since they had already used Solar Beam and some other burst cooldowns like Incarnation, I felt this is a safe time to push for pressure on the enemy healer. Then when Solar Beam is starting to become available, Incarnation is starting to become available, I start to think about defense. You need to start pulling back, retreating away, but we're still 57 seconds away from that, so I'm playing aggressive on the Moonkin with Penances and Solace, and it's very important to use Solace on cooldown, period. It will regen your mana, and it does a ton of damage. And again, a nice knockback to remove that earthen wall totem from the survival hunter. So you definitely want to talent into that explosive trap if you're running this composition into any restoration shamans whatsoever. That knockback is super effective and can definitely net you kills. But as you can already tell, this is a durable team, and the game has been going on for quite some time, and I'm starting to feel the punishment of those shadow mens I used earlier and a lack of effective solace usage. It's important to look at the mistakes you're making in a match, because you need to maximize it as much as possible against a composition like this, so you can elongate the game as long as possible for these freezing trap opportunities to hopefully net you a kill. Now, during Freezing Trap, I used Dark Archangel, and I used my Shadow Fiend. It may have been wise to save the Shadow Fiend, as the cooldown Barkskin had already been committed, which means the next time we have a Freezing Trap, he will not have Barkskin, as it's a minute cooldown. So this overlap of Shadow Fiend and Dark Archangel didn't get anything done aggressively, and I also didn't have it now for this Incarnation to heal. But when Incarnation is used, duck down in that barrier, put it on your partners, start waddling your little priest butt into the barrier, because you want that defense as well, especially if you're out in the open. And look how powerful it is. Now the barrier is starting to fade, so I tell my team, okay, time to get back at the pillar. It's time to chillax. That Incarnation is going to be too much damage to deal with. We need to just avoid the fight. So after the barrier has started to fade, you want to either tell your team to start getting towards the box, or trade more defensive cooldowns. So in this case, it would be Survival Instincts from my Feral Druid, Pain Suppression on my partner, or an aspect of the Turtle. This is the very specific window against a Balanced Druid that you need to respect their authority and kind of move away. In this position, I could have denied Mass Dispel with Psychic Scream on the Priest, and it would have been a wise move. It could have potentially netted us a Gladiator's Medallion. That was definitely an opportunity missed. But as you can see throughout that, I traded Barrier and Pain Suppression and recovered through Incarnation. Now my team has pressure. They don't have a Solar Beam. They don't have Incarnation. And what did I say earlier during these moments? It's when you want to start getting more aggressive on the Shaman and chasing him. You'll either get a Psychic Scream, or you force him to move and prevent him from casting heals, and you can make his team fall behind as a result. So I sort of just throw myself like a quarterback at, well, not so much a quarterback, but I don't play much football, but I'm just throwing myself at the Shaman and forcing him to move, and I'm waiting for Tremor Totem. So I'm following the Shaman, looking for Tremor Totem, and I think that he dropped it, but I am dumb in this position and fear into it to wait and see. Yes. So I tried to do the Psychic Scream into the Master Spell, but didn't notice the Tremor Totem. So that green totem on the ground. It's nice watching a game back on slow motion. I would suggest that you do this for your own games as well. If you're looking to improve, is record your games, watch them back in slow motion. Now during this moment, my team is low, but we also have pressure. So this is a tough decision. In this position, I want my team to be going aggressive. My mana is basically tapped. If we don't get a kill soon, it's going to be ending. So I commit Shadow Mens to desperately stabilize, because we've only got maybe another 2 or 3 freezing traps worth of mana left in my tank in this game, and that's a result of poor solace usage and poor penance usage, and generally could be better crowd control chains out of the freezing traps with Psychic Scream. So now we're on the ropes. I have to play my best. I can't make any more mistakes. During this freezing trap, we get Dispersion. I put myself in a good position to chain out of the freezing trap into a Psychic Scream, and with this well set up attempt, we get an overlap of big cooldowns. Trinket from Resto Shaman and Void Shift from the Shadow Priest. Both of those are game breaking in being able to execute a kill against this team. So just cleaning up my play for a span of 10 seconds netted us a kill. And this is why it's really important to not really buckle down on the fact like we're counter comped, there's nothing we can do, and just focus on what can I do better and try to execute better. And if you have that mentality, I guarantee you will almost always improve. Now you see I'm using Barrier outside that Incarnation window, and you may be wondering why. Well, I've got no mana to heal. We have to kill something here or now or it's over. So I drop that to make my team as durable as I physically can to be able to end the game, and I'm trying to put myself in a position where I can continue crowd control the Shaman at a freezing trap. The Shadow Priest, though, does a good job of denying that by silencing and stunning me, but I know that there's nothing left. If I don't get a Psychic Scream, we're not winning this game. So I just keep throwing myself and end up missing it. But you know what? We still got Spirit Link Totem because we've got good damage and pressure, and I'm being carried heavily by my teammates in this position. Then with Bash, we end up having, I believe, more than enough crowd control. Not enough, actually, to take down the Shadow Priest. But they've burned through Spirit Link. They've burned through Dispersion. They've burned through their trinkets. And in this position with Dampening now reducing the Shadow Priest's heals, he is no longer as durable as he was 6 or so odd minutes ago. And he does ultimately go down. So what can I take from this game? More Solace usage on cooldown, positioning myself so that during Freezing Trap I can chain effectively, and not committing the Shadow Fiend into a cooldown like Barkskin or Earthenwall Totem. You want to wait for a window when you don't have that, or use it in the opener when your crowd control is initiated from stealth and that defense hasn't already been activated. So I hope that this video is of some use to you. I am working hard to become much more skilled at Discipline Priest, Restoration Shaman at the same time at the moment, so you'll be going along that journey with me, and I hope that the information that I get from it and that I can share with you is going to be of some use. And thank you for tuning into this video, and I'll see you on the next one.